This is a 1 cent Pokemon card, and this is a $2,000 Pokemon card, which is just pennies compared to this odd looking card, the Holy Grail Charizard, and even this Raichu, of which only 3 exist. Let's explore Pokemon cards at every price point and answer the question, how expensive can Pokemon cards get? For less than $1, you're going to find bulk cards. The term bulk just refers to those cheap commons that stack up on your desk as you open booster packs. Sometimes these can be useful for the TCG, but they're just so common that they aren't worth anything. Some of these might even be mass-produced holofoil cards. Energy cards are basically free since you get one in every booster pack and get full stacks of them with some other products. The price range between $1 and $10 is where you will find the vast majority of Pokemon cards. And you can find an example of every rarity here. Commons, uncommons, and rares, obviously, but there are also some ultra rares, hyper rares, illustration rares, special illustration rares, and even promos in this category. To level up from the bulk stage, a card has to be collectible. Even if they're mass produced, some cards are worth a little bit more if they feature a fan favorite Pokemon like Pikachu. Or sometimes a card might have a special stamp or holo pattern that bumps up the price. But cards can find themselves here if they are playable too. By playable, I mean the cards are a key to a strategy that works in the trading card game. For example, this Team Rocket's energy card. It looks like plain old bulk, but it actually provides 2 energy to a Team Rocket's Pokemon, which is useful in the game. Therefore, its current dollar value is about $3. However, the opposite can also be true. Some cards look expensive, but end up in this price range because they're kind of useless in the game and don't generate any interest from collectors, like these trainer cards and EX cards from Prismatic Evolutions. And as I mentioned, there are dozens of illustration rares under $10. I think these are worth paying attention to. Some of these are absolute deals like this Cramorant, Swinub, Flapple, Cutiefly, and Kecleon, but I'll admit others are just cursed like Larvitar. This is where things start to get interesting. Cards in the $10 to $100 range are probably going to make up the majority of a collector's binder. Anything in this price range is above the price of a retail booster pack and therefore is worth protecting. If you open enough booster packs, you'll find something in this range, but if you occasionally buy singles to add to your collection, they're most likely going to be in this range too. If we look at vintage, we're going to find holofoils in every condition. There are many lightly played and near mint cards, but also some heavily played or even damaged cards that would otherwise be in the next tier up. I call this the golden price range, as I would guess that most transactions take place here. You can find a little bit of everything. In this price range, Pokemon cards can cost more than your monthly grocery bill. Something I did this year was cut out sugar, and you know what? It saved me enough money that I bought myself this Unagaba Pikachu card. But my cravings have not gone away yet. Magic Spoon is sugar-free, and it's the biggest reason I chose this sponsorship. Well, that and the high protein content. And honestly, a cup of it dry on the way to the gym is the way to go. Per serving, we're looking at 13 to 14 grams of protein, 4 to 5 grams of net carbs, and of course, no sugar. The peanut butter one is delicious, by the way. And if cereal just isn't your thing, they make treats too. 11 to 12 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar, and 1 to 2 grams of net carbs. It's nice to know that this product exists, and you can still have cereal with that nostalgic taste with a low-carb lifestyle. Use my code SNCB or click the link in the description to try Magic Spoon cereal or treats and get $5 off. Check Amazon or your local grocery store because it might be there too. And by the way, Magic Spoon is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee online. So if you don't like it for any reason, you can get a refund with no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen, or visit magicspoon.com/SNCB for $5 off. This is the first price range where vintage is going to take up more of the card pool. Most of the cards here have a long history of appreciation in the market. but many of the modern cards will fall back down to sub $100 if there's a market correction. We're also going to see some rare variants, like staff promos. These have a stamp that says staff on the card, and yes, they were distributed to only staff members of events. We'll also see stuff like World Championship promos, Pokemon Center promos, and many different rare stamps. There have been years in the past when the Pokemon card franchise wasn't as strong and healthy as it is today, so some cards weren't mass produced on the same level. Sets from the E series and the EX series are going to have a lot of cards in this price range, simply due to low supply and high demand. And if we go further back than that, most of the vintage cards in this price range are going to be first edition. But this tier can be very volatile. Cheaper cards can fluctuate by 50 or even 100% and not really make a difference. But this price range is especially sensitive to the secondary market prices, and we sometimes see some pretty crazy runs or even crashes. This tier is where most of the investing takes place. This tier is going to be where the mini grails lie. A mini grail is a card that you might be able to afford with some smart money habits and a little bit of investing. A great example here is this Shadowless Charizard in a PSA 7, which is worth a couple $1,000s, but it's actually on the low end of this price range. Some other examples of mini grails in this tier are first edition Lugia, some gold star cards, some first edition shining cards, very rare promotional cards, Crystal Charizard, and of course the first edition Charizard. However, a first edition Charizard in this range will have to be graded low or in poor condition. Another thing you'll see is high-end Japanese. Now this is one of the areas of the hobby that I like best. Japan gets tons of exclusive cards which are often limited in some way, like the Misaki promos, which could only be obtained by a letter mail campaign. These can be expensive, but the Gengar is on a whole other level. Or this Arceus card, which was awarded for a competition held by Koro Koro magazine. It's almost too expensive for this tier. Of course, you'll also find Poncho Pikachus, the Mario and Luigi Pikachus, and some very desirable trainer cards. People love Pokemon cards, and it's this tier that brings out the most sought after cards to the surface. Alright, we've passed the $10,000 mark, and we're into Grail card territory. Cards in this tier are mostly going to be graded. Grading a card often increases its market value, but it also secures trust for the buyer, knowing that they're receiving an authentic card. Most first edition Charizards are going to be in this price range, unless they're in poor condition or perfect condition. But you'll find a bunch of interesting cards here, like test prints, which often have single-digit pop numbers, or modern trophy cards. Some of the cards mentioned earlier, like the Crystal Charizard, can be bumped up to this price range if they're graded a 10. We even see some rare Japanese promos, like the Tamamushi University Magikarp or the M Sachiko EX card, and we even see some less popular Pokemon Snap cards. Oh, and Ishihara GX, an incredibly rare promo. This is the first price range where average collectors are basically priced out. Even if you pull a huge chase card and get it graded, it's not likely to be up in this tier. Everything here is bought with huge amounts of money or obtained decades ago and kept in perfect condition. Most cards in this price range are going to be graded 10s or above. Pristine 10s represent the highest grade a card can receive and therefore demand a high price. In this price range, first edition Charizards are kind of scarce. The difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10 jump the gap, but there are plenty of CGC 10s and even a Charizard test print. One of the only other English cards you'll find here is the Doug Ferguson GX card. But this tier has even more expensive promos, like this Pristine Bilingual Executor, these Pokemon Snap cards, Gold Star Espeon, the Family Event Kangaskhan, and the Master's Key. All of these have extremely low population numbers, so maybe you're picking up on a pattern here. Low population cards kept in pristine condition are the most expensive cards in the hobby. And finally, we have cards over the 6-figure price point. I know we're already in Grail card country, but these cards are the real deal. I don't have to explain how crazy this is. This is a lot of money for anyone, and cards in this price range are the most expensive in the world. Lots of Snap cards, and even the Gold Star Umbreon. This is where the PSA 10 first edition Charizards lie. At the time of writing, recent sales placed the Holy Grail Charizard at $260,000 to $300,000. Wow. So the difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10 first edition Charizard is tens of thousands of dollars. Why? Well, it's a status symbol. It really is. This is a card that proves who the elite collectors are. But they share this tier with trophy cards, like this third place trophy card from the second ever Pokemon card tournament held in 1998. This sold for $250,000 in July 2025, but back in 2023, a complete set of 3, the first, second, and third place cards, sold for $794,000. The reason I can make this video is that we have public sales data. Those trophy cards were sold at auction, so you can go see the listings yourself. But there are some Pokemon cards that have never been sold publicly, and therefore we can't accurately place them on this list. My favorite example would be the pre-release Raichu. For years this card was only a myth until 2 surfaced and ended up in David Person's collection. Now Person did actually purchase these, both CGC Raichus, but this was years ago, and the amount he paid just isn't relevant when valuing the card today. He ended up selling one to Rusty, otherwise known as TCA Gaming, for a larger amount, but we just don't know what this card is worth until one goes up for auction. And even then, there are individual factors such as grade and the current market that can influence the price by even 6 figures. But only a few weeks ago, a third one popped up. There are now 3 confirmed copies of this absurdly rare card. I've heard that the third copy, which is graded by PSA, is in fact for sale. So maybe another price point will help place it on this list. Another example is the Snap Pikachu. 20 copies of this card were distributed, but only 1 has ever surfaced. That single copy sold for $270,000. But of course, there is one card that dominates its price range, and that's the Illustrator. If the first edition Charizard is a status symbol, this is a Bugatti Veyron. 39 copies of this card were distributed, and a few more have popped up over time. In 1998, they were awarded to winners of a contest held in Koro Koro magazine in late 1997. There are some theories, now I don't know if I should be putting this in the video, but there are some theories that 64 copies were printed if a full 8x8 sheet was produced, but this lacks credible evidence, so truthfully we'll never know exactly how many there are since private sales as well as a lack of documentation make the card difficult to track. And it's hard to price this card. The grader and the actual grade of the card will influence the price heavily, but the seller, buyer, and current market are going to make or break the deal. In 2022, a PSA 8 sold for $480,000. In 2023, a PSA 8 sold for $317,000. In 2024, PSA 8.5 sold for $300,000. In 2025, a PSA 8 sold for $360,000. And of course, we have Logan Paul. Listen, say what you want about Logan Paul. Whatever you want. In 2021, he paid a whopping $1.275 million for PSA 9? But I guess that wasn't enough, so he traded it with the addition of $4 million to secure the one and only PSA 10 Illustrator for a total trade value of $5,275,000. I think it might be a while before that record is broken. So I hope that answers your question. It's not recording. Oh, wait.